They were doing more of a water fast. This is not something that was a dry fast, the studies that we talked about before. And what they found, so they measured two different things. They measured leg presses and also doing bench presses. And the interesting thing they found is, what's up, fasters? Welcome to another video. I'm Dr. LeGrand, your host, and we are going to get started on a new fasting video. So if this is your first time on our channel and you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any other fasting videos that we do here. We talk about all types of fasting: dry fasting, intermittent fasting, water fasting, you name it, we do it. So let's get started with the topic today, and that is, should you do fasting while you are working out or exercising? Is it safe to do that? So in order to answer that question, you know me, I like to dive into science, see what the science has kind of shown us, what the research has shown it. And then of course I'll share some of my own personal experience and what some other of my patients have experienced. But first off, let's dive into a little science first. And the first is to look at some research that has been done on Ramadan and using exercise during the Ramadan period. And for people who don't know, Ramadan is basically where Muslims will fast or dry fast. So this is actually studies on dry fast. That was one of the questions that people asked, is about doing workouts during dry fasting. So these studies were done during the Ramadan, during people who are doing dry fasting. And there's three studies that I want to talk about, and all pretty similar. And you know, one of the studies was done with people who did interval cycles and also time exhausted, basically where they took them to peak where they got exhausted, and they did it at different times of the day while they were doing their dry fast. And then of course there was another study that was done when they took people who did jumping, so long jumps, and kind of seeing the performance there and seeing the exhaustion period there, if there was any kind of difference with people who were dry fasting versus for people who were just eating just like normal. And the other study they did it with intervals of running. And what they found with all three of these studies is ultimately they didn't see any difference between the two groups of the people who did continuously eat or who were dry fasting during Ramadan as far as performance. They didn't see any significant difference. In fact, they even found that when they were doing the different time intervals, so when they did the time at different intervals during Ramadan, where they did it like I think at 8 o'clock, they did one, at 8 o'clock, then they also did one roughly about 6 o'clock, and then one later that night at 9 o'clock at night, and checked those different, if there was any difference. And they didn't see any difference as far as for people who were doing the dry fast or also for people who were eating. In a short sense, yeah, fasting is fine to do during workout, even just looking at this study. But even for me personally, I've always done fasting and workout regimens all the time. I usually typically do workouts while I'm fasting. I don't wait until I've already ate or ate something before the workouts. Now you might be asking yourself is like, well, Dr. LeGrand, don't you lose muscle while you work out? That's not true, because research has shown that during fasted states, our human growth hormones do increase during fasted states, as well as increase while we're doing exercise. So having those both together really can increase that, because human growth hormones is what preserve our muscles and our bones and help also build it. So having both of those at the same time while you're fasting and doing exercise is a great way to actually start building muscle. The other concern you guys might have is, will I get too tired while I work out? Now this goes back to really depending on the person. And when I'm working with patients, especially with patients who do workouts and trying to get more peak performance, it really does go back to the person of how well their body can adapt to doing workouts while they're fasting. And some people do at first initially will feel fatigued when they're doing a workout because their body's not used to it. And if you're starting to get things such as nausea, lightheadedness, and dizzy during workouts, then you probably should be taking some kind of shape form of electrolytes while you're doing workouts, so that you do not get per se dehydrated, or at least deplete a lot of electrolytes to kind of have those performance. Because muscles need all those different electrolytes. So depending on if you're doing cardio or strength exercises, it really kind of depends, but definitely implement some kind of shape form of electrolytes while you are working out if you're finding that you are starting to get a little bit of fatigue. But there could be other conditions that could be underlying, and that's something that maybe you should check with your doctor if you are finding that you're always getting fatigue and chronic fatigue while you're fasting. So that's something you should definitely check with your doctor. Another question that you might be having, well, what about my performance while I exercise? So if you're doing like weightlifting, is a concern that you aren't going to be able to lift as much while you're exercising because you don't have, the nutrients that you need, you don't have your pre or post workout. Well, let's look at another study here to kind of decide whether that is the case or not. So in this study, they took, adult males, and they had them in two different groups. So they were doing what we call is kind of more of an OMAD diet. So they were fasting for 23 hours and then had a feeding period for an hour. And so what they did, so typically they were doing more of a water fast. This is not something that was a dry fast, the studies that we talked about before. And what they found, so they measured two different things. They measured leg presses and also doing bench presses. And the interesting thing they found is between the two groups, the ones that actually did, did pre and post workouts, and then also the fasting group that didn't do that was actually fasting and did their exercise routine during their fasted states, they actually had higher performance. They were able to do higher weights of leg presses and also higher weights over time. This was in about an 8-week span that they did these studies. And they found for both leg pressing and also bench pressing that they were able to up the weights more so compared to the other study that actually did eat. So, I mean, really honestly, it goes back down to the hormones that fasting can implement. That's the human growth hormones. So if those are really increasing, that can help really increase our performance. Well, you might be asking yourself also, what are all the benefits that you can get from fasting and exercising at the same time? Well, I'm going to discuss that in my next video, so stay tuned for that. And if you guys have any further questions, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. Give us a big thumbs up, share with our family and friends. And like I said before, I'll talk about the benefits of fasting with exercising and fasting. So if you have not subscribed to our channel, go ahead and hit this button over here so you won't miss that video, and hit the notification bell, as well as I will leave some other links over here of some videos that you guys can check out if you've not seen those already. Until next time, love you guys, and I will see you next time. This is Dr. LeGrand signing out. Thanks. Bye.